Let's bring in John Yoo, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and law professor at UC Berkeley. John, great to have you with us. So when you hear these comments that were reported by the Federalist from Judge Boasberg, he's with these, with the other judges, including justices of the Supreme Court, and they're talking at a conference, and he's suggesting, it sounds like, hey guys, are you concerned that this president is going to push us to a constitutional crisis by ignoring our orders? How does that sit with you?
In American politics, not all decisions are made in the open, and not all power plays unfold on the public stage. While courtroom trials and televised hearings capture the media's attention, some of the most consequential moments happen far from the spotlight in private judicial conferences, where robes replace microphones and candid words are rarely meant for the public ear. But recently, one such moment slipped through the cracks, and it may tell us more about the growing tension between the judiciary and the presidency than any public statement ever could. At a closed-door judicial conference, meant for logistical discussions and behind-the-scenes court operations, a powerful federal judge, James Boasberg, asked a question that sent shockwaves through the room. He turned to none other than Chief Justice John Roberts and asked, "Are we approaching a constitutional crisis if this president continues to defy court orders?" On the surface, it sounds like a legitimate concern. After all, the balance of power between the executive branch and the judiciary is one of the cornerstones of American democracy. But when that concern is voiced in a setting where such questions are rarely, if ever, asked, and when it's asked by a judge who has repeatedly presided over controversial cases involving Donald Trump, the implications become much deeper. Was this a judge raising a red flag? Or was this something more strategic? Perhaps an attempt to draw the Chief Justice of the United States into publicly backing a growing judicial offensive against a former president? Could it have been a signal, a carefully worded cue, intended to shape the tone of upcoming rulings and reinforce the idea that the judiciary is united against defiance from the executive branch? To understand this moment, we need to understand the man behind the question. Judge James Boasberg isn't just any judge. Over the past several years, a remarkable number of high-profile Trump-related cases have landed on his desk. From surveillance, court rulings during the Russia investigation to immigration decisions and now discussions around contempt of court, Boasberg has played a central and often controversial role in some of the most politically charged legal battles in recent history. Today's video will take you behind that curtain. We'll explore Judge Boasberg's judicial history, what critics are saying about the so-called random assignment of Trump-related cases to his court, and whether his recent remarks were part of a larger pattern, a quiet alignment within parts of the judiciary against Donald Trump and his allies. Most importantly, we'll ask the question at the heart of this controversy: is America's judiciary still an impartial guardian of the Constitution, or is it now an active player in the nation's deepening political wars?
Martha, I'm really disturbed by the reported comments. Look, I'm not one to focus on an individual judge and say they ought to be impeached, as the president has said with Judge Boasberg, or to infer some kind of nefarious motives. But what he did here was really inappropriate. And I think it's worse than what the media has been reporting so far. As you set out in your introduction, Martha, this judge has been wrong on so many issues involving Trump, going back to the FISA court investigation into the Russia hoax.
Recently, during what was supposed to be a routine judicial conference, Judge James Boasberg made a move that stunned many in attendance. He turned to Chief Justice John Roberts, the highest judicial authority in the United States, and posed a question that was anything but routine. Is the president pushing us toward a constitutional crisis by defying our court orders? Now, at first glance, this might seem like a legitimate concern, even a responsible one. But the context in which the question was asked changes everything. These types of conferences are not meant for political or constitutional debates. They typically deal with court administration, logistics, budgeting, courtroom security, even things as mundane as whether more guards are needed at courthouse X-ray machines. In short, these are operational meetings, not forums for airing anxieties about a sitting or former president. And yet, in this very setting, Judge Boasberg chose to raise a question so loaded, so politically sensitive, that it immediately raised eyebrows. Why now? Why here? And why in front of the Chief Justice? Legal scholar and former Assistant Attorney General John Yoo believes this wasn't just an offhand remark. In fact, in his words, it seemed like Judge Boasberg was trying to entrap the Chief Justice to subtly pull him into the narrative and secure some form of tacit approval for what Boasberg may be planning to do next from the bench. Watch this clip closely, where John Yoo explains why this moment was far more than just judicial curiosity and why it may represent a deeper, more strategic move within the American court system. Judge James Boasberg has presided over several high-profile cases involving former President Donald Trump, from rulings related to the Russia investigation to decisions under the Alien Enemies Act and more. Many of those rulings were later overturned by higher courts, including the Supreme Court, which raises an uncomfortable question. Is it just a coincidence that so many politically charged Trump-related cases ended up on Judge Boasberg's desk? Or is there something deeper happening within the judicial assignment? Process, perhaps. A quiet bias operating beneath the surface. As legal analyst John Yoo points out, these patterns deserve scrutiny. And watch closely. Even seasoned journalists Martha McCallum seems visibly surprised by just how many Trump-linked decisions have passed through Boasberg's courtroom. Her reaction, along with John Yoo's sharp commentary, highlights a growing concern. Is the legal system as neutral as it claims to be? Or has it slowly become another front in America's political conflict? Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, was recently dismissed from her position by the Trump administration. Her removal sparked immediate debate. Some critics have called it an act of political revenge, a direct shot at the Comey name, tied 2 years of tension between Trump and the intelligence community. Others, however, argue that the president was well within his constitutional authority to make that decision. But even if it was legal, was it appropriate? Was it just? When a career prosecutor is dismissed, especially one with a name as politically loaded as Comey, questions of motive are impossible to ignore. In this segment, you'll see rare agreement between two legal heavyweights, Andy McCarthy and John Yoo, as they react to the firing. Both acknowledge the president's authority, but both also suggest that the decision may have crossed a line. In today's America, the relationship between the judiciary and the executive is no longer just legal. It's increasingly political. And when judges themselves make statements or decisions that cast doubt on their own impartiality, it inevitably shakes public confidence in the justice system. So the question remains, is all of this just a coincidence? Or are we witnessing a slow shift toward a system where even the judiciary, once the symbol of neutrality, is being shaped by political winds? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Celeb Club 1, for more updates and deep dive political content. Your voice matters, and so does your perspective.